Hello, welcome back to Zestology. It's a special midweek Zestology book club special. Can you tell that I'm making it up as I go along here? I've been talking a little bit on the podcast over the last few weeks about the desire, my thought, to create some kind of book club. Books are obviously quite a central part of this podcast. I ask every guest at the end of the podcast what is one book that they would recommend. It can be fiction and non-fiction, it can be something that they've read recently or something that provides total escapism. And one of the reasons that I ask that is from a purely selfish perspective. I love books and I find it the best way to escape. When I've got a really good book, there is nothing else in the world that takes me to a different place. I'm recording this from my home, inside. Obviously, normally I record Zestology out and about, and the radiator on cue is making some strange noises in the background, so if you can hear that, then sorry about that. But back to the book club. I do think that these are strange and very stimulating times. We want to be more informed than ever, don't we? We are all watching a lot of news, and I obviously work at Sky, and I know the viewing figures that Sky News are getting are absolutely huge because we need to know what's going on in the world. We also need to know from a personal perspective. You know, the rules have changed around what we can do and how often we can leave our homes and everything else. But are you, like me, finding it hard to switch off? If so, the Zestology Book Club might be a welcome distraction. So what I'm thinking is we all read a book together, and it provides a bit of distraction and escapism, and then we can discuss it. As I say, I'm really making it up as I go along. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but I guess something along the lines of we'll read a book, and then a couple of weeks later we could either record a podcast and you could send me your thoughts and we could put that in the podcast. You could even record thoughts, I could edit it in, or we could do a Zoom or some kind of online book club or a Skype, but I guess Zoom would work better. And do it that way. So if you've got any ideas on what you think would be good, either a podcast to listen to with my thoughts on the book and thoughts of a few other listeners as well, or a Zoom, then I'd love to hear from you, and you can get in touch in the usual way. So that's the rough format. I've been asking on the Zestology Books Facebook page. That's a closed group, by the way. It's a semi-secret Facebook group. So if you want to join it, just search for Zestology Books and you'll find it. And I've been asking, what should the first ever Zestology Book Club book be? And I asked, should it be fiction? Because we all need escapism right now. Or should it be non-fiction? Because we need inspiration right now. And fiction has won. So I've been setting my mind to what fiction book it should be. And as I said, I love books and I read books a lot. And fiction is my kind of real favourite for escapism. And I was thinking, should it be a book that I've read before because I know it'll be good? Or should it be a new book that I've not read? And I actually looked over a list that I wrote. I wrote a list in 2009, 10th of August 2009, of my top books. And it's mostly fiction. And there are some real bangers in there as well. I might share this list at some point. There's a couple of Rose Tremaine books in there. The Life of Pi, The Beach by Alex Garland. Don't confuse it with the film because the book is a lot better. The Road Home by Rose Tremaine as well. And Shantaram. Don't know if anyone's read that, but that is a brilliant book as well. And The Kite Runner. Anyway, loads of great books on there. Some Sebastian Faulks, who is probably my favourite author. And William Boyd in there as well. But I have decided, first book that we should all read together should not be a book that I've read before because I want to read it with the same kind of fresh pair of eyes. And I've picked a book that I think is fiction, but there's a kind of inspirational element to it as well. So the book is called The Humans by Matt Haig. It's a former Sunday Times bestseller. It's got absolutely brilliant reviews on Amazon. And I've actually read the preview as well. I've not read any more than the preview at the moment, but I read the preview to kind of test drive it last night, and it is absolutely brilliant. I think it's going to be one of those books which is fiction and a very easy, probably relatively quick read, but there's going to be some messages in it which might make us feel good about life, which is definitely what we need at the moment. So it's described as a clever, heartwarming and darkly insightful novel about an alien who comes to Earth to save humans from themselves. And this is the first line of the book. I know that some of you reading this are convinced humans are a myth, but I am here to state that they do actually exist. For those that don't know, a human is a real bipedal life form of mid-range intelligence, living a largely deluded existence on a small waterlogged planet in a very lonely corner of the universe. So it's all about an alien that arrives on Earth, and his first impressions of the human species are less than positive. He takes the form of a professor from Cambridge University, and the very first bit, I'm not going to put any spoilers in here, obviously I've only read a couple of pages of the book myself anyway, but the very first bit of the book sees him naked in the body of a professor from Cambridge University, and he's disgusted by the way humans look and what they eat and their capacity for murder and war. I believe what happens in the book from the Amazon preview is he begins to see hope and beauty in humans' imperfections. So I think it could be quite relevant at this time. So that's the first Zestology Book Club book. I mean, we'll see how this goes, but it might just be a kind of a short midweek section on Zestology. It might be a longer one. I probably won't record chapter and verse myself when it comes to kind of finishing the book and let you know what I think. But I'd love to share my thoughts with other people. And to be honest, I've never been part of a book club before, and I've always wanted to be in a book club. So let's do it like this. It's going to be completely free. It's just something that I kind of felt I wanted to do to share a little bit of escapism. And especially because we've kind of thrown the Zestology schedule out the window over the last few weeks. They've been very coronavirus-focused podcasts, which is obviously important. We face the biggest health crisis in a century or more on the planet. And my podcast is all about health and wellness. So it's not surprising that I've been focusing on coronavirus. But part of health is switching off and de-stressing and letting go and letting your body recover and heal and get strong and boosting your immune system. And one of the ways to do that might be a bit of escapism with a book. So it's called The Humans by Matt Haig. It's not very expensive if you want to buy it on Kindle or paperback. I know that a lot of Americans listen to this podcast. It's set in the UK, but I think you'll like it. I think I'm going to like it. Obviously, it's a bit of a risk because I've not read it, so I don't actually know if we're going to like it or not. But we'll see how we go. And I'll come back here in a couple of weeks' time. We can talk about the podcast. If you do read it and you've got any thoughts, let me know. Send me an email. I'll get you on the podcast, or we can record a Zoom and do a live kind of follow-up that way. But here we go. The Zestology Book Club has started, and it's completely free to join, and we'll read a book together. The other thing I need to think about is how to make us all accountable to actually read the book, because we have found recently, me and my partner Faith, we've been doing WhatsApp groups to keep each other accountable on meditation. And I tell you what, I've been meditating more than ever before, because every time I meditate, I write it in this group, and then we add it up at the end of the month, how many minutes we've meditated in that month. And it makes you want to do it more. It makes you remember to do it. And when you've forgotten, you feel a little bit guilty. So if we could do something similar with staying accountable with reading, I have a feeling more people would finish the book, because let's be honest, how many books do we buy and not finish? Certainly with me, it's probably 25%. Sometimes I just start a book and I don't want to finish it, because life's too short if it's not a good book, which is why I hope I've picked a real banger to start with. If you can find someone to keep you accountable with actually reading it, that's great. If not, I'll do it. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. I'll give you 3 weeks to read it. 3 or 4. Probably 3. See how you get on. Stay accountable with someone else. Enjoy your reading and the escapism. Honestly, last night the news was so dire. And when I eventually switched my phone off, which was far later than I should have done, and just read a few pages of this, I did feel better. So I hope you do too.